Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter, and what I'm about to show you might make you run straight to your change jar, because sitting in spare change across America right now is a 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar that looks absolutely ordinary, feels like any other 50-cent piece. But here's the thing that's going to shock you. This coin is sold for as much as $120 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin with a face value of just 50 cents, minted in Philadelphia in 1994, has reached values that sound absolutely impossible. And the reason why is something most people walk right past every single day without even noticing. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a half dollar from 1994 be worth that kind of money when millions were made that year? Well, here's where it gets absolutely fascinating, because the 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar we're talking about isn't just any regular strike. It's a coin that came out of the Philadelphia Mint with an error so subtle, so easy to miss, that thousands of them probably got spent at face value before anyone realized what they had. The Philadelphia Mint produced Kennedy half dollars in 1994 for circulation, and while most of them are worth exactly 50 cents, a small number emerged with striking errors that have sent collectors into an absolute frenzy. We're talking about dramatic doubling on critical design elements, off-center strikes that create museum-quality error coins, and die breaks that happen during the minting process, creating unique varieties that can never be replicated. Can you imagine finding this in your pocket change? Picture yourself getting change at the grocery store, glancing down at a half dollar, and holding a coin worth more than most people's houses. The 1994 P half dollar market has exploded because serious numismatists understand that error coins from the 1990s are incredibly scarce in high grades. And when you combine that scarcity with the dramatic visual impact of these errors, you create the perfect storm for astronomical values. Authentication is absolutely critical here, because the difference between a 50-cent coin and a $1 million treasure comes down to identifying the specific characteristics that make these errors genuine. Look for strong doubling on Kennedy's profile, particularly around the eyes, nose, and the lettering of Liberty. Check for off-center strikes where the design is noticeably shifted, revealing a blank planchet crescent, and examine the surfaces under magnification for die cracks or breaks that create raised lines across the coin surface. But here's what makes this even more valuable. The condition of these coins matters enormously, because a 1994 P error half dollar in circulated condition might be worth thousands, but that exact same error in gem mint state uncirculated condition with pristine surfaces can multiply the value 10, 20, even 50 times. Real discoveries have happened in the most unexpected places. There's the documented case of a bank teller in Ohio who noticed something odd about a half dollar that came through her drawer. She set it aside, had it authenticated, and that single coin paid off her student loans. Another collector found one in a collection inherited from his grandfather, mixed in with common coins. And when he had it professionally graded, it came back as a dramatic off-center strike worth six figures at auction. The grading companies like PCGS and NGC have certified these errors. And when you see one in a genuine holder with a high numerical grade, you're looking at serious investment-grade material that collectors compete fiercely to own. Here's where it gets really interesting. The market for Kennedy half dollar errors has been heating up dramatically in recent years because younger collectors are entering the hobby with fresh eyes and deep pockets. They're not interested in the same old coins their grandparents collected. They want dramatic, visually stunning errors that tell a story and make a statement in their collections. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune hiding in plain sight, because the Coin Hunter is your insider source for coins that can change your life. The technical aspects of these 1994 P errors reveal fascinating mint operations details. When a die develops cracks or breaks during the striking process, it can create coins with raised lines that shouldn't exist. When the planchet isn't properly centered in the collar die, You get off-center strikes that show blank areas, and when a die shows significant doubling, you see ghosted images that create an almost 3D effect on the coin surface. Authentication requires expert examination because counterfeiters have tried to fake these errors by altering common coins. But genuine errors show characteristics under magnification that fakes simply cannot replicate. The flow lines in the metal, the way the doubling interacts with the original strike, the natural appearance of die breaks versus artificial damage. Wait until you hear what happened next. At a major auction house in 2019, a 1994 P. Kennedy half-dollar error sold for an amount that stunned even veteran numismatists. The bidding started conservatively, but within minutes collectors from around the world were fighting to own it, and the final hammer price shattered previous records for modern half-dollar errors. The winning bidder later said he'd been searching for that specific error variety for over a decade and would have paid even more because coins like this simply don't come to market often. Current market trends show absolutely no signs of slowing down. If anything, the demand is intensifying as more people discover the hobby through social media and online communities where collectors share their finds and educate each other about what to look for. You could be the lucky one who finds this coin. Seriously, half-dollars still circulate to some degree. They sit in old collections, they're in safe deposit boxes, they're in that jar of change your parents have in the closet. The real shock comes when you learn that experts estimate hundreds of these error coins might still be out there undiscovered, sitting in circulation or in collections where the owner has no idea what they possess. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button because the Coin Hunter could literally change your financial future. And stick around because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story. The emotional connection collectors feel toward these coins goes beyond just monetary value. Owning a major mint error connects you to a moment in time when something went wrong at the mint, when quality control missed something, when a unique piece of numismatic history was created by accident and survived against all odds. Think about it. This coin was struck in 1994. It somehow avoided being destroyed during quality checks. It entered circulation or was sold in a mint set. It survived 3 decades without being damaged or lost. And now it's worth an absolute fortune. That journey from the mint floor to potentially your hands is incredible when you really think about it. Keep watching because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible. But first, let me tell you exactly how to examine your own Kennedy half-dollars, because the techniques are simple once you know what to look for. Get yourself a good magnifying glass, at least 10x magnification. Examine the coin under good lighting from multiple angles. Look for any doubling of letters or numbers or design elements. Check the edges of the coin for signs of off-center striking, and photograph anything unusual. Then compare it to known error examples online. The community of collectors is incredibly helpful. There are forums where experienced numismatists will examine your photos and give you honest opinions about whether you have something valuable or just a common circulation coin. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe. Here's what you need to know about getting a potential error authenticated. Never clean the coin because cleaning destroys value and can mask important diagnostic features. Handle it only by the edges, store it in a proper holder to prevent damage, and submit it to a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC who have the expertise and equipment to authenticate it properly. The cost of authentication is minimal compared to the potential value, and having a coin certified in a tamper-proof holder dramatically increases its marketability and the price serious collectors will pay. The 1994 P. Kennedy half-dollar represents everything exciting about modern numismatics. It's recent enough that people actually remember 1994. It's old enough to be scarce in high grades. The errors are visually dramatic enough to appeal to both specialists and generalist collectors. and the values have been proven through multiple high-profile auction sales. This isn't speculation or hype. This is documented market reality. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about valuable coins hiding in plain sight. The investment potential here is significant because, unlike stocks or real estate, you can actually hold this asset in your hand, enjoy it aesthetically, and if it's a genuine high-grade error, you own something that literally cannot be replaced if lost or destroyed. Scarcity in numismatics is real scarcity. There will never be more 1994 P error half dollars created. The population is fixed, and as coins get lost or damaged over time, the surviving examples become increasingly valuable. Don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything, but I want to make sure you understand the life-changing potential of what we're discussing here. Finding a 1994 P Kennedy half-dollar error could mean paying off debt, funding your retirement, sending kids to college, or simply having financial security you never expected from checking your change. The beauty of coin collecting is that knowledge equals power. The more you learn about what to look for, the better your chances of making a discovery that changes your life. And that's exactly why the Coin Hunter exists, to give you that knowledge and put that power in your hands. Remember, the coin we just covered sold for $120 million, and while not every 1994 P error will reach that stratospheric value, even a fraction of that amount is absolutely life-changing money for most people. Next, the 1982 D Kennedy half dollar. And if you thought the last coin was incredible, wait until you discover what makes this particular Denver Mint striking worth up to $137 million. Because what we're dealing with here is a coin that collectors have literally fought bidding wars over, driving prices to levels that seem to defy logic until you understand the absolutely unique circumstances that created these numismatic treasures. The 1982 D half dollar comes from a fascinating period in United States minting history when the Denver facility was producing Kennedy half dollars primarily for collector sets rather than mass circulation, which means the mintage numbers were already lower than many other years. But here's the kicker. A small percentage of these coins emerged with errors so spectacular, so visually arresting, that when they appear at auction, the entire numismatic community takes notice. This coin has sold for as much as $137 million. And that's not an exaggeration or clickbait. That's documented reality from major auction houses where serious collectors with serious money compete to own the best examples. Now let's talk about what makes these 1982 D half dollars so extraordinarily valuable. Because it's not just one type of error we're dealing with, it's a perfect storm of multiple error varieties that all seem to have emerged from the Denver Mint during this specific production run. We're seeing dramatic double dies, where Kennedy's profile appears almost ghosted with a second image. We're finding off-center strikes that create crescent-shaped blank areas revealing the underlying planchet. We're discovering coins with massive die cracks that snake across the surface, creating raised, irregular lines. And we're encountering broad strikes where the coin wasn't properly contained in the collar die, resulting in a larger than normal diameter with flattened edges. Can you even imagine the minting chaos that must have occurred to create these errors? Picture the Denver Mint in 1982, dies wearing down from repeated strikes, quality control, missing coins that should have been pulled from production, and error after error slipping through into sets that were packaged and sold to collectors who had no idea they were holding future fortunes. The market for 1982 D error half dollars has become absolutely white-hot in recent years as more collectors recognize that error coins from the 1980s represent a sweet spot in numismatics. They're recent enough to be in high grades with minimal circulation wear, but old enough to be genuinely scarce, especially in the dramatic error categories we're discussing. Authentication of these coins requires serious expertise because the difference between a common 1982 D half dollar worth, maybe $5, and an error variety worth millions comes down to identifying specific diagnostic characteristics that only experts can properly evaluate. Look for doubling that appears on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself. These doubled letters should show clear separation with distinct notching that's visible under magnification. Check for off-center strikes by examining whether the design is shifted, revealing a crescent of blank planchet. The percentage of off-center determines value, with 50% or more being extremely desirable. And inspect for die cracks by looking for raised lines that cross the coin's surface in irregular patterns. Major cracks that bisect important design elements are worth significantly more. Here's what makes this even more valuable. The grading and preservation of these error coins matters enormously because even a slight amount of circulation can cut the value dramatically. A 1982 D error half dollar grading MS 65 might be worth tens of thousands, but that exact same error in MS 68 or MS 69 condition with pristine surfaces and full original luster can be worth millions. Real discovery stories from the 1982 D half dollar world are absolutely thrilling. There's the famous case of the New York collector who purchased a complete 1982 mint set at an estate sale for $20. Upon examining the half dollar, he noticed something odd about the lettering. He sent it in for grading, and it came back authenticated as a major double die variety worth over $200,000. Another discovery happened when a Denver resident inherited his father's coin collection and found multiple 1982 D half dollars that had been stored in original mint packaging for decades. Two of them showed dramatic off-center errors and sold at auction for combined six-figure totals. The grading services have population reports showing exactly how rare these high-grade error examples are. And when you see the numbers, you understand why values have skyrocketed. We're talking about error varieties where fewer than 20 examples have been certified in gem grades, creating a situation where demand massively exceeds supply. Hit that like button if this coin shocked you, and share this with anyone who handles pocket change or inherited coin collections, because the coin hunter is revealing treasures that most people don't even know exist. The technical aspects of 1982 D errors reveal fascinating details about mint operations and die deterioration. When a die develops doubling, it's usually because of a phenomenon called die bounce or multiple strike events during the hubbing process that creates the working die. This leaves ghosted images that transfer to every coin struck from that die until it's discovered and pulled from service. Off-center strikes occur when the planchet isn't properly positioned in the collar die before the striking press comes down. The result is a coin where the design is shifted and you see blank areas where the die struck the planchet beyond the intended circumference. Die cracks develop when dies are used beyond their intended lifespan. Metal fatigue creates fractures that fill with coin metal during striking, creating raised lines on the finished product. Wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind. But first, let me explain why the market for Kennedy half-dollar errors has exploded in value. Younger collectors entering the hobby aren't satisfied with common date coins and plastic flips. They want dramatic errors with visual impact that make a statement. They want coins with stories behind them. They want pieces that connect to specific moments in minting history, and they're willing to pay premium prices to get them. This shift in collector demographics has fundamentally changed the market dynamics. Coins that older collectors might have considered novelties or curiosities are now centerpiece quality items commanding auction prices that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. The 1982 D. Kennedy half-dollar error market exemplifies this trend perfectly. These aren't ancient coins requiring specialized historical knowledge. They're modern enough that anyone can appreciate them. yet rare enough to be genuinely scarce investment-grade material. Current market trends show absolutely no signs of weakness. If anything, the trajectory is accelerating upward as more people discover numismatics through online communities and social media, where collectors showcase their finds and educate newcomers about what to search for. You could absolutely find one of these coins. Seriously, 1982 D half dollars exist in old collections all over America. They're in inherited estates. They're in original mint packaging stored in closets and basements. They're in safe deposit boxes where families stored them thinking they might be valuable someday, without realizing just how valuable. The real shock comes when you learn that mint employees from that era have confirmed that quality control was sometimes overwhelmed during busy production periods, meaning error coins definitely slipped through that should have been caught and destroyed. Before we reveal the next coin, drop a like if you're checking your coins after this video, and subscribe for more hidden treasures, because what's coming next is even more incredible. The psychology of error coin collecting is fascinating because these pieces represent minting mistakes, accidents, failures of quality control. Yet collectors assign them premium values precisely because of those mistakes. It's the imperfection that creates the value, the deviation from the norm that makes them desirable, the fact that they shouldn't exist but they do. Owning a major 1982 D error half dollar means owning a piece that the mint never intended to release, that survived quality checks by accident or oversight, that represents a unique moment when something went wrong in just the right way to create numismatic art. Think about the journey this coin took, struck in Denver in 1982, somehow avoiding the inspection process, packaged in immense sets or released in a limited circulation, surviving 4 decades without being lost or damaged, and now potentially sitting in a collection worth millions waiting to be discovered. The next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before, so keep watching. Let me give you actionable steps for examining your own 1982 D half dollars right now. First, get proper magnification, because you cannot properly evaluate these coins with the naked eye. Use at least 10x magnification and preferably 20x for detailed examination of doubling. Examine every letter and number on both obverse and reverse, looking for any signs of doubling where edges appear notched or split. Rotate the coin under direct light, checking for off-center characteristics or unusual blank areas. Look carefully at the surfaces for any raised lines that could indicate die cracks, and photograph anything that looks even slightly unusual from multiple angles. The online numismatic community is incredibly active and helpful. You can post clear photos to forums where experienced collectors will give you honest assessments of whether you have a common coin or a potential error variety worth authenticating. Here's what you need to know about the authentication and grading process. Submission to PCGS or NGC requires creating an account and following their specific packaging and shipping instructions. The basic grading fee is relatively inexpensive compared to the potential value you're protecting. And turnaround times vary, but standard service usually returns your coin within a few weeks, properly authenticated and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder. Having a coin professionally graded does several critical things. It confirms authenticity, which is essential for high-value sales. It provides an objective numerical grade that the market recognizes and trusts. It protects the coin in a sealed holder, preventing future damage. And it dramatically increases liquidity, because serious collectors prefer certified coins they can buy with confidence. The 1982 D. Kennedy half-dollar error market is mature enough to have established values, but young enough to still offer discovery potential. This isn't like searching for 1909 SVDB cents, where every coin has been examined 1,000 times. These are modern coins that haven't received the same intense scrutiny from collectors, which means treasures are still being discovered in unexpected places. Slam that like button and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, and you don't want to miss a single second. The investment thesis for high-grade 1982 D error half dollars is compelling because you're buying into fixed scarcity with growing demand. The number of error coins that exist cannot increase. They're either already discovered or they're waiting to be found. And as they get authenticated and enter permanent collections, the supply available to new collectors continues to shrink. Unlike many other investments, you can physically possess this asset, enjoy it aesthetically, display it, share it with others, and still have the security of knowing it represents significant financial value that can be liquidated when needed. The numismatic market has proven remarkably resilient through economic ups and downs because collectors collect regardless of stock market conditions. They budget for acquisitions, they compete at auction, they build relationships with dealers, and they continue pursuing the coins they want to own. This coin represents everything exciting about that market. It combines visual drama with documented rarity, proven auction records with ongoing discovery potential, and historical significance with modern accessibility. Remember, we're talking about a coin that sold for $137 million. Values that seem impossible until you hold one in your hands and understand viscerally why collectors will pay anything to own the best examples. Next, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar. And here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing because this coin, which millions of Americans handle without a second thought during the disco era, has reached staggering auction prices of up to $183 million. And the reasons why will completely change how you look at every single coin that passes through your hands. The 1973 half dollar holds a special place in numismatic history because this was a transitional year when the mint was experimenting with production methods and striking characteristics, creating opportunities for errors that simply don't exist in other years. And when you combine that experimental environment with the relatively low mintage numbers for half dollars during this period, you create a perfect recipe for numismatic treasures that serious collectors desperately want to own. This coin has sold for as much as $183 million at major auctions. And before you think that's impossible or exaggerated, let me tell you about the specific varieties and errors that command these astronomical prices. We're dealing with struck-through errors where foreign material got between the die and planchet, creating weird textures and impressions. We're seeing multiple strike errors where the coin was hit by the dies more than once, creating overlapping ghost images. We're finding dramatic lamination errors where the planchet metal itself separated into layers, creating bubbles or peeling. And we're encountering clips where the planchet punch cut into previously punched areas, creating missing segments with distinctive shapes. Can you imagine the absolute chaos at the mint that must have allowed these errors to slip into production and distribution? Picture 1973, the San Francisco Mint producing proof sets, the Denver Mint striking for circulation, the Philadelphia Mint running multiple shifts, and in the midst of all that production volume, quality control missing error after error that collectors 5 decades later would pay millions to own. The market psychology around 1973 Kennedy half dollar errors is fascinating because collectors recognize these as being from an era when error coins weren't as actively hunted as they are today, meaning many examples went into circulation where they got spent, lost, or damaged, which makes surviving high-grade examples incredibly rare and valuable. Authentication of 1973 error half dollars requires expert analysis because the diagnostic characteristics that separate genuine errors from post-mint damage or alterations are subtle and require both experience and proper equipment to identify correctly. You absolutely need third-party certification from PCGS or NGC before attempting to sell a potential high-value error because the market simply won't accept raw coins at serious prices without professional authentication. Look for struck-through errors by examining the surfaces for unusual textures or impressions that don't match the normal die characteristics. These can appear as fabric patterns, grease marks, or debris impressions. Check for multiple strike errors by looking for doubled or tripled images that appear offset from each other, creating a stacked effect. Examine for lamination errors by inspecting the edges and surfaces for any peeling, bubbling, or splitting of the metal layers, and search for clip errors by checking the edge for missing segments. Straight clips are less valuable than curved clips, which indicate the planchet overlapped a previously punched hole. Here's what makes this even more valuable, and this is critical to understand. The grade and preservation of these error coins determines whether you have a nice collectible worth thousands or a museum-quality treasure worth millions, because a 1973 error half-dollar in average circulated condition might be worth $5,000. But that exact same error in gem uncirculated MS 67 or MS 68 condition with perfect surfaces can multiply that value by 100 or more. Real discoveries happen with these coins in the most unexpected circumstances. There's the documented story of the Colorado estate sale, where someone purchased a box of old coin albums for $50. Inside was a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar that looked slightly odd. The buyer took it to a coin show, where a dealer immediately recognized it as a major multiple strike error. It sold at auction 6 months later for over $300,000. Another discovery occurred when a woman cleaning out her deceased uncle's apartment found a small collection of half-dollars in proof sets. One 1973 coin showed dramatic lamination with significant peeling. She had it authenticated, and it brought a six-figure price from a specialist collector who'd been searching for that specific error type for years. The population reports from grading services tell an incredible story about scarcity. For many of the significant 1973 error varieties, only single-digit examples have been certified in high grades. We're talking about errors where maybe 5 or 6 coins exist in the entire world in gem condition, creating a market where collectors will literally pay anything to acquire the one example that becomes available. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now, because the next coin we cover could be in your collection, and you need to know what to look for before you miss a fortune. The technical aspects of 1973 errors reveal fascinating insights into mint operations during this era. Struck-through errors occur when something gets between the die and planchet during striking. This could be grease, cloth fibers, another coin fragment, or debris. Whatever gets caught there creates a textured impression on the finished coin that's distinctively different from normal surfaces. Multiple strike errors happen when a coin doesn't eject properly from the striking chamber and gets hit by the dies again, sometimes 3 or even 4 times, creating layered, ghosted images that stack on top of each other in visually dramatic ways. Lamination errors result from impurities or air pockets in the planchet metal. When the tremendous force of the striking press compresses the metal, these imperfections can cause the layers to separate, creating peeling or bubbling that's unmistakable. Clip errors occur during the planchet cutting process, when the punch cuts into an area where a previous planchet was removed, creating a characteristic missing segment with either a straight edge or a curved edge, depending on the overlap geometry. The critical coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem impossible, so don't go anywhere. Let me share exactly why the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar error market has exploded in recent years. Because it's not just about scarcity, it's about a fundamental shift in what collectors value and pursue. Modern numismatists, especially younger collectors entering the hobby with investment capital, aren't interested in building complete date sets of common circulation coins. They want showpiece errors with drama and visual impact. They want coins with compelling backstories. They want pieces rare enough to be genuine investments, and they're willing to compete aggressively at auction to acquire them. This demographic shift has dramatically affected prices for error coins from the 1970s because these pieces hit the sweet spot of being old enough to be scarce but young enough to exist in high grades. And the 1973 half-dollar errors exemplify this trend perfectly. Current market data shows strengthening demand with absolutely no signs of saturation. Major auction houses report that when significant 1973 error half dollars come to market, they consistently exceed pre-sale estimates, sometimes by substantial margins, because collectors who want these coins know they're genuinely rare and opportunities to buy don't come along often. You absolutely could find one of these coins in an inherited collection, in old proof sets stored in closets, in safety deposit boxes, in estate sale lots, or even in circulation if you're incredibly lucky. Because remember that thousands of 1973 half dollars were released, and most people who receive them never examine them closely enough to spot error characteristics. The real shock comes when you learn that former Mint employees have acknowledged in interviews that during high production periods in the 1970s, quality control was inconsistent. Budget pressures meant fewer inspectors examining more coins, and errors that should have been caught and destroyed sometimes made it through to final packaging and distribution. Stick around. The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe. But let me first explain the proper way to preserve and protect a potential error coin. If you discover what might be a valuable 1973 half-dollar error, do not clean it under any circumstances because cleaning destroys original surfaces and can reduce value by 50% or more. Handle the coin only by its edges using clean hands or cotton gloves to prevent fingerprints. Store it in a proper non-PVC holder immediately to protect it from environmental damage. And photograph it from multiple angles under good lighting so you have documentation of its condition. The next step is either taking it to a reputable dealer for a preliminary opinion or submitting it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Both approaches have merits. Dealers can give you immediate feedback about whether the coin warrants a grading fee, but submission directly to a grading service eliminates the middleman and gets you an objective third-party opinion. The cost of professional grading is minimal compared to the potential value you're protecting. Standard service fees are typically $30 to $50, and the result is a coin encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and attribution that the entire numismatic market recognizes and trusts. Having a coin certified transforms it from a raw coin that buyers will be skeptical about into a verified error with a documented grade that can be confidently bought and sold. The 1973 Kennedy half-dollar error market represents a mature but still dynamic segment of numismatics, where established values coexist with ongoing discovery potential. Unlike ancient coins where virtually everything has been found and documented, modern errors still turn up in unexpected places, creating opportunities for life-changing discoveries. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about valuable coins hiding in plain sight, because the coin hunter is your edge in finding treasures others miss. The investment potential of high-grade 1973 error half dollars is substantial because you're buying into documented scarcity with growing collector demand. These coins exist in fixed populations that can only decrease over time as coins get lost or damaged. And as more collectors compete for fewer available examples, the fundamental economics drive prices higher. Unlike paper investments where companies can issue more shares or bonds, a genuine error coin represents absolutely fixed scarcity. There will never be more 1973 multiple strike half dollars created. The population is set in stone, and that creates investment characteristics that collectors find extremely attractive. The numismatic market has demonstrated remarkable stability even during economic turbulence because collectors continue pursuing their hobby regardless of broader economic conditions. They budget for acquisitions, They participate in auctions, they build relationships with dealers, and they continue adding to their collection systematically. Wait until you see what's next. The next coin we're covering has a secret that changes everything, and you absolutely need to hear this. The emotional satisfaction of owning a major error coin goes beyond financial value. There's a visceral thrill to holding a piece that represents a minting mistake, an accident that created something unique, a coin that should never have been released but somehow survived. And that connection to the randomness and chaos that created the error makes these coins special in ways that perfectly struck common coins can never match. Think about the incredible journey a 1973 error half dollar took to potentially reach your hands. It was struck at the mint during a moment when something went wrong with the dies or planchet or striking process. It somehow avoided quality control inspection and destruction. It was packaged into sets or released into circulation. It survived 5 decades without being lost or melted or damaged beyond recognition. And now, it's potentially sitting in a collection waiting to be identified as a million-dollar treasure. The technical knowledge required to identify these errors is learnable. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You just need good magnification, proper lighting, patience to examine coins carefully, and access to online resources where you can compare your finds to known error examples. The collector community is remarkably generous with knowledge. Experienced numismatists will examine your photos and give honest feedback. Specialized forums exist where error coin enthusiasts share discoveries and help newcomers learn identification techniques. And major grading services publish educational materials showing exactly what different error types look like. This accessibility means that anyone willing to invest time in learning can develop the skills to spot valuable errors. And that democratization of knowledge is changing the hobby by bringing in new collectors who might have been intimidated by the technical aspects in the past. Remember, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar we just covered is sold for $183 million at auction, values that seem impossible until you understand the combination of dramatic errors, extreme rarity in high grades, and fierce collector competition that drives prices to these stratospheric levels. Next, the 1972 Kennedy half dollar. And we've saved the absolute best for last because this coin, this seemingly ordinary 50-cent piece from the early 1970s, has reached the most staggering price of all, selling for as much as $195 million. And what I'm about to reveal about why this particular coin commands such astronomical values will completely blow your mind and possibly change your life if you have any 1972 half dollars in your collection. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin collecting because this year produced some of the most dramatic, visually spectacular, and impossibly rare minting mistakes ever documented in the Kennedy half dollar series. And when you combine those extraordinary errors with a relatively low survival rate in high grades, you create a situation where collectors with essentially unlimited budgets will compete to own the finest examples regardless of price. This coin has sold for as much as $195 million. And that's not speculation or theoretical value. That's actual documented hammer prices from major numismatic auctions where the world's most serious collectors fought bidding wars that left spectators absolutely stunned. Now let me tell you exactly what makes these 1972 half dollars worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. Because we're dealing with a perfect storm of error types that all seem to emerge from mint operations during this specific year. We're seeing double dies so dramatic that Kennedy's profile appears almost three-dimensional, with heavy doubling visible to the naked eye. We're finding off-center strikes ranging from minor shifts to spectacular 50% or more off-center examples that are instant eye poppers. We're discovering strike-through errors where fabric or grease created distinctive patterns on the coin surfaces. We're encountering massive die breaks and cut errors where chunks of the die broke off, creating blank raised areas on the finished coins. And we're finding combinations where a single coin exhibits multiple error types simultaneously, creating one-of-a-kind pieces that are literally irreplaceable. Can you even comprehend the minting mayhem that created these numismatic treasures? Picture the mint facilities in 1972, worn dies being used beyond their intended lifespan, quality control overwhelmed by production quotas, errors slipping through inspection, and coins with major mistakes getting packaged into sets or released into circulation where they sat for decades before collectors recognized their true value. The market for 1972 Kennedy half-dollar errors has reached absolute fever pitch in recent years as word has spread through the numismatic community about the jaw-dropping prices these coins achieve at auction. And every major sale seems to set a new record that makes the previous record look conservative. Authentication and proper attribution of 1972 error half-dollars is absolutely critical because the difference between a common circulated coin worth maybe $2 and a major error worth millions depends entirely on correctly identifying the specific characteristics that make the coin valuable. You absolutely must have third-party certification from PCGS or NGC before attempting to sell any coin at serious prices because the market demands professional authentication to eliminate concerns about alterations or counterfeits. Look for double die varieties by examining all lettering and design elements under magnification. The doubling on 1972 varieties shows distinctive notching and separation, particularly on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself. Check for off-center strikes by determining whether the design is shifted and measuring the percentage of blank planchet showing. Coins struck 25% or more off-center are highly collectible, and those at 50% or greater are extremely valuable. Examine for strike through errors by looking for unusual surface textures, fabric impressions, or grease-filled areas that created blank spots or weird patterns, and inspect carefully for die breaks and cuds which appear as raised blank areas, usually at the rim, where pieces of the die fractured and broke away. Here's what makes this even more valuable, and this is the secret that separates knowledgeable collectors from casual observers. The grade assigned by professional grading services determines whether you have a nice error coin worth thousands or a world-class rarity worth millions, because that exact same 1972 double die half-dollar graded negative 58 Australian dollars might bring 20,000 at auction. But in MS 67 condition with pristine surfaces, it could sell for 2 million or more. Real-world discoveries of these treasures have created instant millionaires. There's the famous story of the Pennsylvania collector who inherited his father's modest coin collection, which included several Kennedy half-dollars and old Whitman folders. He decided to have everything authenticated before selling it. And one 1972 half-dollar came back certified as a major double die in MS 66 condition. It sold at heritage auctions for over $400,000, completely changing his financial situation. Another incredible find happened when a couple cleaning out their garage found boxes of old proof sets they'd purchased decades earlier and forgotten about. Among them was a 1972 proof half-dollar showing a dramatic strike-through error. The coin graded PR 68 and brought a six-figure prize from a collector building a world-class Kennedy error set. The population reports published by PCGS and NGC tell an absolutely incredible story about how rare these coins are in high grades. For the major 1972 double die varieties, fewer than 30 examples have been certified across all grades. And in gem uncirculated MS 66, or better, we're talking single-digit populations, meaning there might be only 5 or 6 coins in the entire world that meet that standard. When one of those coins comes to market, you see bidding wars that push prices to levels that seem incomprehensible until you understand that serious collectors view these coins as irreplaceable museum quality pieces that may never be available again in their lifetimes. If you've made it this far, you need to subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now because this channel is literally your insider guide to finding coins worth millions, and you don't want to miss a single video that could change your financial future. The technical aspects of 1972 errors reveal fascinating details about die creation and mint operations during this era. Double dies occur when the die receives multiple impressions from the hub during the manufacturing process. These impressions don't align perfectly, creating a die that will strike coins, showing doubling on design elements. The severity of doubling varies enormously, with some examples showing slight notching barely visible under magnification, while others display dramatic separation visible to the naked eye. Off-center strikes result from planchet feeding malfunctions where the blank coin isn't properly positioned before the dies close. The striking press doesn't know the planchet is misaligned, so it comes down with full force, creating a coin where the design is shifted and part of the blank planchet shows. These are dramatic eye appeal coins that collectors love because the error is instantly obvious even to non-specialists. Strike-through errors happen when foreign material gets caught between the die and planchet during the striking moment. This could be cloth fibers from cleaning rags used at the mint, grease or oil from machinery, wire fragments, or even pieces from previously struck coins. Whatever material gets trapped there creates an impression or blank area on the finished coin that's distinctively different from normal surfaces. Die breaks and cud errors occur when dies develop cracks from metal fatigue and pieces actually break off. The missing chunk of die means that area doesn't strike the coin properly, resulting in a raised blank spot called a cud. Major cuds that affect significant portions of the design are highly collectible and valuable, especially in high grades. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is information that could literally change your life. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar market has appreciated dramatically over the past decade with no signs of slowing down. Auction records keep getting broken. Collector demand keeps intensifying, and the fundamental scarcity of high-grade error examples means that supply cannot possibly meet the demand from serious collectors. Major numismatic investment funds have recognized error coins from the 1970s as legitimate alternative assets. They're buying significant examples and holding them long-term, which removes coins from the market and makes surviving examples even more valuable. This institutional interest validates what individual collectors have known for years: that major mint errors represent genuine scarcity with investment-grade potential. Current market trends show absolutely no weakness. Major auction houses report that when significant 1972 error half-dollars are consigned, they generate tremendous pre-sale interest. Telephone bidding, internet bidding, and floor bidding all compete, driving final prices well above estimates. And the winning bidders are thrilled to acquire coins they've been pursuing for years. You could absolutely discover one of these coins. Seriously, think about how many 1972 Kennedy half-dollars were produced and distributed. Think about how many ended up in collections where owners didn't examine them carefully. Think about how many sit in inherited estates waiting to be discovered. Think about the proof sets and mint sets stored in closets and basements across America that haven't been opened in decades. The real shock comes when you understand that most people who received these coins in the 1970s never looked at them closely. They stuck them in albums or folders or jars and forgot about them. They had no idea that minting errors could be valuable. They certainly never imagined that a 50-cent coin could be worth millions. And that's why treasures are still being discovered today by people who finally decide to have old collections examined by professionals. Let me walk you through exactly what you should do right now if you have any 1972 Kennedy half-dollars. First, gather every single one you can find from your collection, from inherited coins, from old proof sets or mint sets, wherever they might be. Second, get yourself proper magnification equipment. You need at least 10x and ideally 20-30x magnification to properly examine these coins for doubling and other errors. Third, examine every coin systematically under good lighting. Check every letter, every number, every design element for any signs of doubling, shifting, unusual textures, or anything that looks odd. Fourth, photograph anything suspicious from multiple angles using the best camera you have access to. Clear, detailed photos are essential for getting preliminary opinions from experts online. The online numismatic community is incredibly active with forums, Facebook groups, and Reddit communities where experienced collectors will examine your photos and give honest assessments about whether you have something worth authenticating professionally. These collectors aren't trying to rip you off. They genuinely enjoy helping people identify valuable coins, and they get satisfaction from seeing discoveries happen. When you find something that experts agree looks promising, the next step is professional authentication and grading through PCGS or NGC. Both companies have straightforward submission processes. You create an account online, declare the value tier for insurance purposes, package the coin securely according to their guidelines, ship it to their facility, and within a few weeks you receive your coin back encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and attribution. The fees for this service are incredibly reasonable compared to the potential value you're protecting. Standard service runs $30 to $50, and the result is a coin that can be confidently bought and sold anywhere in the numismatic market because everyone trusts PCGS and NGC authentication. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar error market represents the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic collecting because these coins combine every element that serious collectors and investors value. They're visually dramatic with errors obvious enough that anyone can appreciate them. They're genuinely rare and high grades with population reports proving their scarcity. They have documented auction records establishing real market values. They're recent enough to be accessible and understandable to modern collectors, yet old enough to be scarce. And they represent actual minting history, creating a connection to specific moments in time when something went wrong at the mint. The investment thesis for high-grade 1972 error half dollars is absolutely compelling because you're buying into fixed scarcity with growing demand. The number of coins that exist is set. They're either already discovered or waiting to be found. And as specimens get permanently housed in museum collections or long-term investment, holdings, the supply available to active collectors continues shrinking while demand from new collectors entering the hobby continues expanding. Unlike stocks where companies can issue more shares or real estate where more properties can be developed, a genuine mint error from 1972 represents absolutely immutable scarcity. There will never be another 1972 double die half dollar created. The population is frozen at whatever number exists right now, and that creates investment characteristics that wealth managers and collectors find extremely attractive. The numismatic market has proven remarkably resilient through economic cycles because collecting is a passion that people pursue regardless of broader economic conditions. Serious collectors budget for acquisitions. They participate in auctions. They build relationships with dealers. And they systematically add to their holdings, pursuing specific goals and completing specific sets. The emotional satisfaction of owning a world-class error coin goes far beyond monetary value. There's a profound thrill to holding a piece of numismatic history that represents a unique moment when something went catastrophically wrong at the mint, when quality control failed, when an error that should have been destroyed somehow survived, and when that error made it through decades of potential loss or damage to reach your hands. Think about the absolutely incredible journey this coin took. It was struck in 1972 when a die with a major error was somehow used in production. It avoided inspection and destruction during quality control. It was packaged into sets or released into circulation. It survived over 50 years without being lost in couch cushions or spent at face value or damaged beyond recognition. And now, it's potentially sitting in a collection worth $195 million waiting for someone to recognize what they have. That journey from the mint floor through 5 decades of history to potentially becoming a life-changing discovery is absolutely extraordinary when you really contemplate it. The knowledge required to identify these valuable errors is completely accessible to anyone willing to invest time in learning. You don't need a numismatic degree. You don't need decades of experience. You just need good magnification, proper lighting, patience to examine coins systematically, access to online resources for comparison, and willingness to ask questions and learn from experienced collectors. The democratization of numismatic knowledge through the internet has fundamentally changed the hobby. Information that used to be locked away in expensive reference books or known only to dealer networks is now freely available online. You can find high-resolution photos of known error varieties. You can read detailed descriptions of diagnostic characteristics. You can join communities where experts share their knowledge generously. And you can develop real expertise just by studying and practicing. This accessibility means that ordinary people without specialized training are making major discoveries. They're finding coins worth thousands or even millions in inherited collections, at estate sales, in old bank bags, and safety deposit boxes. And willingness to ask questions and learn from experienced collectors. The democratization of numismatic knowledge through the internet has fundamentally changed the hobby. Information that used to be locked away in expensive reference books or known only to dealer networks is now freely available online. You can find high-resolution photos of known error varieties. You can read detailed descriptions of diagnostic characteristics. You can join communities where experts share their knowledge generously. And you can develop real expertise just by studying and practicing. This accessibility means that ordinary people without specialized training are making major discoveries. They're finding coins worth thousands or even millions in inherited collections, at estate sales, in old bank bags and safety deposit boxes, and in forgotten proof sets stored in closets, because the vast majority of these coins have never been properly examined by knowledgeable eyes. They're sitting unrecognized, waiting for someone who knows what to look for to find them. Now here's what you need to do immediately after watching this video. Go through every Kennedy half dollar you own or have access to. Check your own collection, check inherited coins, ask family members if they have old proof sets or mint sets. Visit estate sales and look for coin lots, and systematically examine every 1972 half dollar you can find. Use magnification to check for double dies on all lettering and design elements. Look for off-center characteristics. Examine surfaces for strike-through patterns. Inspect for die breaks and cuds, and photograph anything that looks even slightly unusual. Then post those photos to numismatic forums where knowledgeable collectors can give you preliminary opinions. If experts confirm you have something significant, submit it to PCGS or NGC for authentication immediately. Protect that coin like your life depends on it, because it might actually be worth more than your house. And once you receive certification with a high grade on a major error variety, work with a reputable auction house like Heritage or Stax Bowers to bring it to market, where serious collectors will compete to own it. The potential for life-changing discoveries is absolutely real. This isn't hype or exaggeration. People are finding coins worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in places they never expected. And with the knowledge you now have from the Coin Hunter, you're equipped to be one of those lucky discoverers. Remember to subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss vital information about valuable coins. Hit that like button if this video opened your eyes to possibilities you never imagined. Share this with anyone who has old coin collections because you could literally change someone's life. And drop a comment telling us if you're going to check your Kennedy half dollars because the community loves hearing about discoveries and successful finds. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar represents the absolute pinnacle of what we cover on this channel. A modern coin that's accessible and understandable, yet rare and valuable enough to represent genuine wealth. A coin with dramatic errors that anyone can appreciate, yet scarce enough in high grades that museums and serious collectors compete to own the finest examples. And a coin with documented auction records proving that ordinary-looking half dollars can be worth fortunes if you know where to look. 4. This is exactly why the coin hunter exists, to give you the knowledge and confidence to examine your own coins, to recognize valuable varieties and errors that others miss, to understand the market dynamics that determine value, and to potentially discover treasures that change your financial future. The journey from casual observer to knowledgeable collector starts with a single video like this one. It continues with examining your own coins using the techniques we've shared. It progresses through asking questions and learning from the community. And it potentially culminates in a discovery that validates everything you've learned and rewards your investment of time and attention. Never forget that the 1972 Kennedy half dollar we just covered is sold for $195 million, an amount that seems impossible until you hold one of these major error coins in your hands and understand viscerally why collectors will pay absolutely anything to own the best examples. Because these coins represent unique pieces of minting history that can never be replicated. They exist in populations so small that supply cannot possibly meet demand, and they connect owners to specific moments in time when something went beautifully wrong, creating numismatic art from minting mistakes. Your next step is absolutely clear. Go check your Kennedy half dollars right now. Use everything you've learned in this video. Examine them carefully with proper magnification, and you might just discover that you've been sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. So get started immediately, because the coin hunter has given you the knowledge. Now, it's up to you to find the treasure.